Okay, okay, here we are. Oh.
The success of Frozen and Moana is pretty much going to guarantee Disney's path forward in the 3D animated genre. There's nothing inherently wrong with this style of art, but after watching a number of these movies, it became very apparent that there was a through-line issue I was beginning to see. Everyone's face is pretty much the same. Of course, they're going to try to make each character distinctive, but it's not like they can have this background choir lady as the face of the new Disney princess. I can't exactly blame them for going with the big-eyed, heart-shaped face every time when they need to sell tickets, and they're making no attempt to hide that pretty much every story they tell is a fantasy. Fantasy people are just prettier people, okay guys? I didn't make the rules, okay? It's just here in the 10 Disney Commandments. That's number 9 or something. But Jim, are you always gonna talk about the girls in this video? What about the boys? Thanks for bringing that up, fellow commenter, and I am mainly going to be bringing up the girls because there seems to be a larger variation of male faces than there are female faces. This might be a topic to speculate at a different time, but my guess is that there seem to be a lot of people more generally accepting and forgiving of men and their appearances. From Flynn in Tangled, to Kristoff in Frozen, to Ralph in Wreck-It Ralph, and even Hero in Big Hero 6. There's a lot of variation between these male characters. So it appears that Disney seems to be okay with not using a mold for the same male characters, but the same really can't be said about the female characters. Whether there's a conversation to be had about that in particular may come at a future date. I'm not sure. I haven't drawn any conclusions about that yet. So I'm just here right now to talk about how 2D versus 3D, there seems to be a lot more variation between female faces. And since the Disney Empire is kind of built on the Disney princesses, you'd think that's where their focus should be. Anyway, back to the point of 2D versus 3D animation. It's kind of crazy to think that all the princesses post Tiana are going to generally have the same facial structure from now until the end of time, because in the world of 3D animation, your options are limited. There are not that many ways to make a 3D generated image attractive, but there are many more ways to make that happen in 2D. The one thing that was very impressive to me were the wildly different art styles that Disney employed in their different movies in the past. Perhaps they were products of their times, but let's take for example Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty had a beautifully painted aesthetic that looked like what you would see in a fairy tale book. 101 Dalmatians had line art and a watercolor aesthetic reflected in the saturated colors. This reflected a place like London, which has gained a notorious reputation for being a lot of doom and gloom with all their rain. Pocahontas had soft lines and contrasting colors, but a beautiful color palette, while Mulan had clear influences in Asian art and the lines and shapes that they used. Each of those movies all fell under the Disney umbrella, but even within that universe, the different art directions and the art styles were able to exude a feeling that almost acted as a character within itself. You know how the orchestra is often thought to be a character within itself in a musical? That's kind of what like the art style in 2D animation is for Disney movies. Because of these different art styles, characters inside were able to be drawn differently and with more defining characteristics. I think you'll be hard-pressed to find someone who can mix up Ariel and Pocahontas, but Rapunzel, especially with her new haircut, can easily be confused for one of the Frozen sisters. Yeah. I'm sure people are gonna claim that they might be cousins, so they could have the potential to look alike, but even the Auntie from Big Hero 6 looks like she fell from the same apple tree. Moana is more distinctive with a darker skin, broader nose, and frizzy hair, but she still seems like she was printed out of a similar 3D mold. To their credit, it does look like Disney is doing their best to make these characters distinct from one another, but with 3D, they can't seem to risk going too far outside what is proven to be the most aesthetically pleasing face. As a side note, if we were to compare Disney to DreamWorks female faces, DreamWorks definitely seems to get the trophy for not using the same mold as much. They seem to be more open in designing characters with drastically different features. This may not be quote-unquote as attractive as the Disney characters, but kudos to them for doing it anyway. Okay, back to Disney. In contrast, with 2D animation, characters are able to achieve a lot more distinctive features, especially if it's tied into a specific art style. For example, if we were to look at Megara from Hercules, we can see that her features are very sharp. From her cheeks to her chin, with her lips within, everything about her is about angles or spirals. Her hair is very distinctive and of course is not realistic, separating in distinct volumes, but that's the beauty of animation. It doesn't have to be grounded in reality. It can be embraced and exaggerated just to convey a certain feeling or idea, and the audience will completely absorb it. Let's look at another example. Pocahontas. Contrasting her with Meg, say even if we grayscaled it and tried to take away all the colors that define them, it's still very apparent that Megara has a very different look than Pocahontas. Pocahontas' hair flows very differently, almost like a bedsheet in updraft. Sorry, I can't think of a better analogy, that's kind of just what it looks like to me. Her face is far rounder than Meg's, and her eyes, nose, lips, everything is beautiful but very differently drawn. But of course those characters look insanely different. Why do you have to compare those two? Compare two that kind of look like each other, yeah? Okay, I can see your point. I was just trying to make the case that Moana's similarity to the Frozen girls, because even though they are completely different, very distinctive, they still have the same structure down, which you can't say would be the same from Megara to Pocahontas to Ariel to Jasmine. You can't say the same thing about it. But continuing on, let's compare the faces of all the 2D princesses as they were in the movies, not as they were redrawn, repackaged art sold on backpacks, notebook, pencils, books, movies only. Unfortunately, I don't have very sophisticated software to tell you to the nth degree how close one face is to the other. So this is me just trying to put a little bit of a technical aspect to it to see why my brain subconsciously thinks that all the Disney princesses in the 3D movies look very similar while the ones in 2D don't. Just trying to put an explanation to it. So what I did was I brought the photos into Photoshop, overlaid them, changed the opacity, and decided roughly how close these faces were to one another. Obviously this is a not exact science, just my personal judgment, so feel free to repeat this process on your own or come up with a different process entirely and see what you come up with. But from what I found, I would say that there are only a few similar in facial structure, like Belle, Ariel, and Jasmine, who are all part of the same time period of the 90s Renaissance. And the majority of the female character faces were very distinct. Yes, it's a smaller sample size for the 3D animated characters, but all 3D animated characters appear to have a strikingly similar facial structure through and through. Apart from the fact that I just love exploring different art styles in animation, I think we lose a lot of what makes each Disney princess special by leaving it all to 3D. The unfortunate truth is that Disney wants these princesses to be pretty, and there are only so many ways to make it happen in 3D. But in 2D, these options open up tremendously, especially if they lean far into their chosen art style as they did with Mulan, Pocahontas, Meg, Anita from Dalmatians, Lilo from Lilo and Stitch, and Sleeping Beauty. Even with similar art styles and characters like Belle, Ariel, Jasmine, Tiana, and Jane from Tarzan, there's enough subtle and blatant distinctions to differentiate them from each other in a snap. It's unfortunate that The Princess and the Frog didn't do better in the box office, because scapegoating its performance in 2D animation is, in my opinion, a miscalculation.
Okay, I know this doesn't have anything to do with the video, but a quick fix I would have done to help The Princess and the Frog is that the poster and the dress that she was wearing in the poster when she kissed the frog should have been used for the promotional material and marketing. I just remember seeing this picture and thinking, why did she get the Cinderella's hand-me-down? My first thought should not have been that Tiana is a Cinderella clone. It should have been, who is this character? I'm intrigued. They should have had the defining green dress we see at the end of the movie. I think that small change would have done a world of difference, because that's a visual cue that we've never seen this character before, and that's a dress we've never seen before. If you're at all familiar with Disney princesses, you know that their dress is just as important as any other attribute they have, because this is the dress that they're going to be wearing on backpacks, on posters, on pencils, on notebooks, anything that they can sell merchandise to. And to be frank, we've never seen a princess in a green dress before. Sorry, Ariel, you don't really count because you haven't worn that dress in the movie.
End note. Anyway, try to give 2D animation another chance, Disney. Don't let the box office of The Princess and the Frog dictate how you approach animation from here on out, because that was honestly a masterfully drawn animation, even if it didn't bring in the money that you wanted. If you continue down the 3D road, I can kind of see how most, if not all, of your princesses are going to be chopped from the same block of wood. There are many different versions of beauty in this world, and if you keep to the same facial structure, you're just limiting yourself more than ever. Or just make some conventionally uglier princesses, Disney. Your choice. If you made it to the end of this video, I really appreciate you sticking around. If you can, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, comment it, spread it around. Anyone who you think might benefit from seeing this video, see if they agree, disagree. Any and all thoughts are welcome.